Hi and welcome along to AFTV. We've got some breaking news regarding Eddie Nketiah. Fabrizio Romano has done official here we go. And when he does his here we goes, that means that a player is on their way, and that player is Eddie Nketiah. Eddie Nketiah has tweeted, or should I say X'd out, by Fabrizio Romano. Eddie Nketiah to Crystal Palace, here we go. The deal is in place between the two clubs for £25 million in a fixed fee plus £5 million in add-ons, as I spoke about on my show, Transfer Daily, this morning. He goes on to say Nketiah has already accepted to join Crystal Palace 2 days ago, and he's now set to complete his medical tests. Permanent move, as Arsenal wanted. The green light has arrived. Eddie Nketiah on his way to Crystal Palace, not to Nottingham Forest. It was Nottingham Forest at the start of the weekend who looked like they were going to be signing him. First of all, it was on, then it was off, then it was back on again, then it was off, and now he was going to Crystal Palace. Of course, it's the exact same deal as was in place for Nottingham Forest, which is said for £25 million plus £5 million in add-ons. So Arsenal will make £30 million in pure profit. Remember, when it's a homegrown player, which Eddie Nketiah is because he's come through the ranks, that goes against your balance sheet as pure profit. And that's why when you sell a player that's come through your ranks, it's very beneficial to a lot of clubs, as we've seen Chelsea selling off all of their homegrown players. But Eddie Nketiah is going to be leaving. I feel a little bit sad about this one because, listen, anytime you've got a player that's come through your ranks, you want to see them, succeed at your club. However, it hasn't quite worked out for him. He's had his moments at Arsenal. He scored hat-tricks. He's scored important goals. And let's not forget, he came in when Gabriel Jesus was out for a very long time, and he filled in admirably for Arsenal. However, to go to that next level for Arsenal, they feel that, obviously Mikel Arteta probably feeling that they need a better striker. It was quite noticeable at the end of last season that it wasn't Eddie who was being called upon off the substitutes bench. It would be Trossard, it would be Jesus, and Eddie got very, very few minutes. It then became pretty obvious for me during pre-season that he was going to be leaving because he was used so sparingly. The previous season, he was used a lot in pre-season. This pre-season, he was barely playing. And then we got to the games, the first couple of games of the season, on the bench, unused. That is because Arsenal knew that there were a lot of clubs interested in him. Remember, the first club that showed a lot of interest was Marseille. He was, they wanted, first of all, to buy him for 15 million. Arsenal turned that down. Then they wanted to pay 20 million. Arsenal turned that down. And in the end, they walked away from the deal. And remember, there were a lot of fans losing it. Why didn't we just take 15 million and that's it? Turkish. Right. And many other fans out there. But this is called a transfer window. And the transfer window finishes at the end of this week. And you got to, take your hat off to Edu for being patient with this one. He didn't just react and say, all right, Marseille, I have him for 20 million, I have him for 15 million, whatever. And, he said to himself, no, I know we can get 30 million for him. I know that there are clubs out there that are other, and we're not privy to this information, remember, but they would have known other clubs out there were showing a big interest in Eddie Nketiah, and he bided his time. Even when the deal came in for Forest, and that deal didn't happen, again, I saw people losing it online. The powers that be who were behind this deal, they were all patient because they knew that Crystal Palace were actually in for him. And actually, the reason why that deal had actually fallen through with Forest is because the player himself, Eddie Nketiah, did not want to go to Forest. He wanted to go to Crystal Palace. Always remember that when it comes to transfers, it's not just because an offer comes in for a player, that player's going to that club. The player has to agree personal terms. And sometimes a player agrees personal terms, but the club don't want to sell him to that club because there's another club who want to offer more money. So there's many elements to a deal. That is what you always have to remember. The other thing I feel that a lot of fans need to remember and need to, again, put some respect on Edu's name for this, and this is not me being Edu fan club, but this is, you've got to give credit where credit's due, because there'll be a lot of things said sometimes unfounded. When Eddie Nketiah signed that new deal at Arsenal, that deal was done to protect the value of the player. Eddie Nketiah was about to walk away from Arsenal for free. He'd reached the end of his contract, he was coming to the end of his contract, and he was about to walk through the door at Arsenal for free and free to join whichever club he wanted to do. Arsenal wanted to protect the value of the club. They had two things in mind: protect the value of the player, and also, if it works out, we've saved ourselves a lot of money because we don't have to go out and buy a striker. So they signed him to this new contract, £100,000 a week. They protected the value of the player, right? It didn't work out, because if it had worked out, he would have saved them a lot of money as well in going out there and buying a player, but it hasn't worked out. And now they're selling him, a player that a year ago could have walked away for nothing, for £30 million. That for me is good transfer business. That for me is good business. The sort of stuff we never used to do before Edu came to the club. We had players that were walking away for free time after time after time again. As a matter of fact, excuse me, when Edu came into the club, he then had to get rid of a lot of players for free because they were just sitting around on mega wages. So at last, Arsenal are doing good transfer business, and I think this is a good, solid bit of business for Arsenal. They bagged £30 million, and they can use that money, hopefully, to go back into the market. Now, this is the next question. Are Arsenal going to go and get either a striker or a wide player? I feel now it's an absolute must. Gabriel Jesus out at the weekend, injured. He's got this groin injury. Still haven't heard how many weeks he's going to be out for, whether it's just a minor thing that's kept him out for a game, or is it going to be something that could keep him out to up to 8 weeks, which is the worst case scenario right now with this groin injury. That means for me, Arsenal must go into the market. As it stands, when it comes to the weekend's game against Brighton, they've got one striker, Kai Havertz. You've got Trossard, who can fill in there. He can fill in anywhere across that front three, as we've seen him do brilliantly. But essentially, we've got one out-and-out striker. Jesus is injured. Eddie's gone now to Crystal Palace. Surely, Arsenal must have a target that they're looking at, whether it be a striker or a wide player, to come into that position. And I think that is the thing that a lot of fans are going to be looking at, because we don't want to leave ourselves short. I was at a press conference in the summer when we signed Calafiori, and Mikel Arteta was asked a question, why have you signed another defender? And he said, listen, last year we were short in that area and we got lucky because there was no injuries to Gabriel and there was no injuries to Saliba. He goes, you can't take that chance. Well, surely that's got to be the same in the forward line. Now with Eddie Nketiah going, we're leaving ourselves short if we don't bring somebody in. So the next few days are going to be really interesting to see if Arsenal bring in a wide player, someone who can play right across that front three, or a striker. It's going to be really, really interesting these last couple of days. One other bit of news just before we go. Mikel Merino, according to Fabrizio Romano, has signed his 4-year contract with Arsenal. It's all done and dusted, and we're expecting an announcement on that really, really soon. So Mikel Merino finally will be announced as an Arsenal player, and that's another good addition to Arsenal's team. Hasn't really had much of a pre-season, so it's going to take him a few games to get himself in gear, but we have got that international break coming up for him to really, there's a lot of rumours saying that he trained with the team as well today, so we're expecting an announcement on that imminently. But the big news today is that Eddie Nketiah, here we go, he signed a deal to join Crystal Palace. It's 25 million plus £5 million in add-ons. Eddie is going to be a Crystal Palace player. Doesn't have to go very far. just across the river to ply his trade, and Arsenal will bag £30 million for it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, we'll keep you up to date with any breaking news regarding transfers here on AFTV. On Friday, we're going to be doing a transfer deadline day special, so look out for more information on that. And of course, I'm still here with Transfer Daily right up to deadline day. Thanks for watching the show, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing when it comes to transfers.